what Kata really means and how it can transform construction training. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the what if scenario of what if we were able to train using routines on a construction project to get everyone to the point where we see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group through small, like I said, routines that are consistent. And if that was implementable with the team sizes that you already have and the wisdom that you already possess, what would that mean for your project? So that's what I'm going to cover right now. Okay, so I'm super stoked about this topic because it also allows me to introduce another topic right now. It will be transformational to projects. So let me talk to you right now about the Japanese word kata, or routine. Kata basically means structured routine of thinking and action. And it's not a checklist, it's not another tool, but it's a way of behaving that's really quite remarkable. And basically what it says is, okay, if you're going to go do an improvement Kaizen, which can be maybe smaller, you can do spot Kaizens, you can do system Kaizen, or you can do a massive change, which we've talked about before. Katas are actually routines. And it's a way of thinking, and it's a way of molding, and I would also say it's a way of working shoulder to shoulder. So kata is practice pattern of movement, or a practice pattern of improvement, or a practice pattern of thought. And I really, really like this because a lot of times people don't need to be taught. They really require reminding. And I'm going to give you a visual that will help with this and help us to understand this concept. And I obviously learned most of this from my trip to Japan with Paul Akers, and I'm super excited to share it. So let me get into the example right now. One of the single most impactful ideas implemented is the concept of a morning worker huddle. Not just a stretch and flex, but an actual morning worker huddle. And the system, in alignment with the Last Planner system, works like this. 1 point in a week, you do your look ahead and weekly work planning for the upcoming weeks or week. And then every day, and this is the right way to do it, you do an afternoon foreman huddle, which technically can be between 10 a.m. and let's say 3 p.m., where the foreman planned the next day. It shouldn't be pod meetings, plan of the day. It should be pond meetings, plan of the next day. And then that day plan is fixed in the foreman's and the superintendent's mind. They can plan and prepare and get the actual resources for the next day for the people. And then you coalesce, you come together as an entire job site for that functional area. All workers coming from the parking lot to the morning worker huddle, and there communicating the day plan, creating a social group, getting feedback, and making sure that we're one team. One of the single most impactful ideas in all construction. We have to do it. This is where we're heading. So let me go ahead and enhance the morning worker huddle idea with this idea of kata, or routines. What if instead of saying, okay, you come in the main gate from the parking lot, no wasted time, and into the queuing area, which is where you do your morning worker huddle, what if instead of going through one gate, you went through two? And I've talked a little bit about this with the Masagura and the Genkan. But you come in, you do the morning worker huddle, and you go through certain routines. The morning worker huddle is a routine. But inside that morning worker huddle, you have other routines which are impactful. Then once everybody is together, everybody has said the rally cry, everybody knows the plan for the day, everybody has the QR code which links them to the project information. The second gate then opens. But what if, instead of it being forced, we were able to do it in a way where the morning worker huddle was interesting and people wanted to be there, and rewarding, so that those folks who have that dopamine hit for completing something, it was actually provided. Meaning for neurotypical and neurodivergent people, both types of reward systems or interest-based systems are supported because the huddle area is interesting, it adds value, and there's a reward. Obviously, you're entering the gate and you have an elevated sense or method of how you're going to do your work. Now, let me just go ahead and describe this. I was thinking about this over the weekend. My dad used to drive, because he had a Class C license, a chuck wagon for the Apple Valley Sheriff's Posse when he was a member of the Sheriff's Posse. And he would drive this big cab over with this big trailer, and that's how they would go ahead and support their search and rescue teams, which was mostly on horseback. They had these massive coffee pots which would make coffee pretty quickly, and it was pretty delicious. What if we had coffee for the workers? I'm literally talking a couple hundred people. What if we were able to figure out a way of doing that? What if the visuals were so interesting that people wanted to come see what was going on for the day? What if, when in extreme cold temperatures, we had those propane-enabled heaters which would literally heat up a 10-foot radius, and maybe you have 10 of them. I just bought one at Home Depot for $180, and literally the workers come in from the parking lot, they have coffee or donuts, whatever you want to do, maybe some chocolates. You're coming in, and I know what you're thinking. You think I'm pandering. No, I'm not. I'm talking about total participation. Come in and it's decently warm. It's not bad to be out there. Music's going, music stops. Now the huddle's starting. Great visuals. And here's what I want to talk about. What if you had a mock-up, in addition to the morning worker huddle board, you had a mock-up of the restroom. Don't laugh. And the crew boards that literally we're expecting every crew to use, and the bins and carts that are designed for logistics. And literally you have the most important logistical considerations for the job site right there in mock-up form, visual form. So every day we're reminding, hey, this is how we take care of the bathrooms. This is why this is so important. Hey, with the crew board, remember, crews and workers out there, please remember to do these things. Hey, when you are doing the staging, remember to kit it this way, then it goes onto the forklift, then it taken to the floor. This is how you signal that it's ready to be picked up. Every day we go through a routine. Not only is the morning worker huddle a routine, not only do we onboard people with routines, but we routinely educate the mind, make improvements, and reinforce the behavior that we want on our project site. This is crucial. Let me just say this. What would our lives look like on a construction project if you had a team that was that bought in, that trained, that connected, wanted to be there, and we were doing this routine on a daily basis? What would it look like? So let me go into the definition just a little bit more. Mike Rother popularized two different types of katas. The improvement kata, where you take disciplined routine steps towards the end state or the end goal for an improvement. And then the coaching kata or routine, where you're literally creating the capability and the capacity in others to solve problems for themselves. The morning worker huddle is that. Like, not only are you helping people to get towards the improvements by routine and education, but you're also developing in them a mindset. And in that morning worker huddle, you are teaching every day 2 minutes of concepts. Maybe one day you talk about how we build people before we build things. Maybe the next day you're talking about why do we schedule deliveries. Maybe the next day after that, we're literally talking about how to kit things for easier delivery towards the area. We should treat these folks who are on our job site like they matter, like we build people before we build things. And so these routines are absolutely huge. So at its core, a kata is seeing where you want to go, grasping the current condition, identifying the next target condition, and running small PDCA experiments to close the gap when we're heading towards an improvement. And if it's a behavior or a competency, the kata or the routine is building people before we're building things by reinforcing certain repeatable patterns, habits, and routines so that the human mind does not auto-filter out excellence, but it can stay top of mind. And so this concept is absolutely beautiful. Now, other people use the term kata in different ways, right? I'm explaining it as a routine versus, a one-time Kaizen improvement or a system Kaizen improvement or some massive change. I'm explaining kata as a routine. And one of the things that I want to explain before I leave this topic is when we understand this concept of kata or routine, we start to realize that instead of fighting fires, instead of going on treasure hunts, instead of having to figure it out, instead of rework, habits and routines are where we should be, okay? And just one real quick story in closing is that I remember one time as superintendent, we had the job all detailed out. This was at the end of my project superintendent days. I was a GS at the time. The project was set up with beautiful pre-con tack plan. The procurement log was all set up. The meeting structure, the trades, we had the best of everything. And the afternoon foreman huddle, morning worker huddle, and all of these routines, these katas were keeping the project stable. I come back 6 weeks later and everything's chaos. And I'm like, what's going on? I said it nicely, but he was like, well, we stopped doing the foreman huddles. They weren't adding value. We stopped doing the morning worker huddles. They weren't adding value. And I'm like, what do you mean they weren't adding value? They were boring. Well, what do you mean they were boring? Well, everything was so smooth that we didn't have much to talk about. So we got rid of them. And I was like, well, now you have a rogue delivery. You've got messes over here. You've got 4 or 5 people coming over here and trying to get your help, like when you don't have time and you have to run somebody else. Now you have chaos because you ignored your routines. And so this is the syndrome of the firefighter arsonist, is that if you really want to create stability, you will do routines that might seem boring so you prevent the chaos. But if you're a firefighter arsonist, you want that chaos because that's how you like really get your significance. So routines bring stability and stability brings flow. I'm going to put this into a blog post for you, but I encourage you to research more about this and especially check out our book, Tact, Steering, and Control, which talks all about the morning worker huddle and how to implement it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.